Barack Lesnar is one of the most elite fantasy basketball analysts on the planet. And last year, surprisingly, he walked away from fantasy basketball to go pursue other passions and other interests. But I have news for you. He's back. Just like Michael Jordan, rocking the 4-5 on a jersey. He came back, and the Bleav in fantasy basketball community are partnering with him to provide you that all-star caliber value. In this episode, we'll be running down Barack Lesnar's must-grab fantasy basketball players. Welcome back, Barack.
Hey, what's good? How's everyone doing? It's great to be back.
Yo, the fantasy basketball community is up in arms. So let's just jump right into it. I know you've been working behind the scenes to share with people your must-draft players, the players that you are targeting specifically for category leagues. Why don't we just start with that number one player or one of the first players, if you don't mind sharing?
Man, so I've been researching all day, and I actually put together a list of 51 players that kind of fit the strategy that I've identified for myself and that I've shared on my channel. I'm not going to share all 51 right now. I don't have to.
I was about to say, Barack, I was like, man, I need to get a longer slot.
No. I did extensive research so that I could give you, informed answers when you did ask. I did my homework. If I had to return, I wanted to drop a 50-point game. So I mean, as far as the number one player on the list and universally, I think any build you have, of course, it's Nikola Jokic. So I don't think that's changed. The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause with Jokic is the playoff schedule is not the greatest. So that's something I'm going to focus on more this year, is really that fantasy playoff schedule and trying to stack as many games as possible. I don't think it's something to deter you from Nikola Jokic, but it maybe makes Victor Wembanyama just a little bit more appealing, having a more robust fantasy playoff schedule. Shea, he won a championship. I've loved him since his rookie year. I felt like he was a special talent. I'm not going to lie and tell you I knew he'd have the success he's had, but I had a feeling because he always fit the mold I like, which is guards that are efficient, get steals, they get blocks, and then he can score with the best of them. So those players tend to do really well. So he's somebody that I would totally build my team around. But, if you have a top 5 pick, it's hard to go wrong at that range. Almost any player you're going to get in that range, you can really build a monster team around. So I would say a player that I think is maybe undervalued and should be accessible to most people, Myles Turner. And maybe it's my Milwaukee Bucks bias, but a big part of my strategy that I've always shared with my community is I value unicorns. I value players that have statistical contributions that are not typical of their position. So Nikola Jokic with his assists. Myles Turner, he has the ability to hit a ton of threes, get you a ton of blocks. And again, a player on the Indiana Pacers who made the finals and almost won had it not been to an injury to Tyrese Halliburton. So I find it interesting that the players I've always loved to build my teams around, they end up being key pieces of these championship pieces, and I don't think it's a coincidence.
Do you think Myles Turner is going to maintain similar value moving over into the new environment with his new team, or do you think that he's going to take a hit? He'll increase value. What's your take on that?
So I think it's a perfect situation for him because he's essentially stepping into the role that Brook Lopez had, and Brook Lopez was an amazing asset in that role playing next to Giannis. Something else, I guess, to consider is the fact that Dame is no longer with the Bucks, so that's a lot of usage. That's a lot of offense they'll need. They gave him a sizable contract, which to me shows they made that investment. They are going to want to see a return on their investment, so there will be opportunities. When he was on the Pacers were constantly dangling him in trades. There were other players they valued more. So I think with the Bucks now, with Giannis, it sounds like he's going to be playing more point guard this season. and him being a stretch big, he's a perfect complement to a player like Giannis. I think it's going to be his best season. I mean, you need 3 players to stop Giannis. So if he can post up from the 3-point line, he's going to be pretty open. And I like their chances at success with him.
Very dope. Very dope. So really quick, before we talk more players, I want to also address the fact that you're returning, man. And I was like in your comment section. That's one of the reasons I reached out, because for you guys at home, whether you're listening or watching, me and Barack have kind of, been in contact over the years. We've done some collaborations in the past. And just like you guys, when he said that he was going to walk away from fantasy, I was very sad about it, but also very supportive for my brother. But then I went back to your comment section, Barack, and I saw like people coming back for this season. Like, what? Like, people were like just finding out about it. So I was just adamant about like, how can we get my man to throw on the jersey for the community? So about what you've been working on, and also what brought you back this year.
Yeah, so right now I've been doing stand-up comedy for a few years now, and I really thank my channel because getting in front of this camera, building a community, hundreds of hours of just being in front and having to communicate my thoughts and my feelings and my strategies, it helped me translate to a goal I've had forever, which was to really get into stand-up. And I was actually quickly able to build a name for myself here at home in Columbus, Ohio. And I manage a club called the Attic Comedy Club. So if you live in Columbus, Ohio, and you've been to the Attic Comedy Club, you've probably seen me. And if you do know my fantasy basketball stuff, definitely say hi. But I needed to get away from fantasy basketball because at the time I had a full-time job, 5 kids. This comedy career, helping manage this venue, which I'm now the head booker at. It was so time intensive that it was just difficult to give the quality output that I felt my audience deserved. And then my mentality was I rather walk away and focus on these things I need to focus on rather than, half-assing it, starting for, a quarter of the season and then just dropping off. But I got laid off from my full-time job earlier this summer, which allowed me, I think, in a way, allowed me to now focus on my business, which has been great. It has allowed me to focus on the club and booking, big names to come to this club. Like we have Bobcat Goldthwait coming in December. We have Steve Byrne a few months ago. Malik B, who's a big personality on Instagram. We just had him this past weekend. So Rick Diaz, he's big on Kill Tony. We just had him at the Comedy Festival about a week ago. So doing that has allowed me to focus on my passion. But now, not having the full-time job, I get to focus more of my energy on this thing that I love that facilitated really the comedy career that I have. And I still love basketball. I still love fantasy basketball. I never stopped playing fantasy basketball. So I walked away from the channel, but I played all of last season and had my best season. I think it made me realize that, and maybe you can corroborate this, that when you're a personality that shares your opinion, you get into this bubble where now other people's opinions start to influence your own. And I think separating myself from that and just truly going off of just my judgment, not what others were saying, not what you were saying, not what my comments were saying. And I had the best season I've had since before I started the channel. So I thought that was like an interesting observation. I did do my subscriber league. I came in second. I lost the final day. So that was cool. Won some money doing money leagues, which I want to do some subscriber leagues this year too. But you offered the opportunity. Oh, well, you reached out to ask what I was doing. And I've been a fan of yours ever since we started working together. And what I really like is, and I might get a little political, but it's always bothered me that the NBA is there's so much black and brown, energy. Black and brown males really are the dominant force in the NBA. But then it feels when it comes to fantasy basketball, it feels like all of the faces are white. And it feels like there's almost this mentality that people that look like us, maybe we are good enough to play it, but not good enough to analyze the sport that we excel at. So I've always wanted to be a person where if you got something from me, it was of the highest quality and you could put it up against anybody else and be like, the stuff Barack gives me is legit. And the fact that people come looking for me even when I'm not here, to me is a testament to my desire to give that sort of output. And then seeing you and how hard you work. And again, not a non-white male, not that that matters, but it does matter because it lets people like me, it lets other people know, hey, I can do this too. My opinion matters too. I can break this sport down, not just on the court, but, you know, off the court as an analyst. So I know that was very long-winded, but anyone that watches my channel knows that's what Barack Lesnar does. He doesn't shut the hell up.
Nah, I appreciate you pointing that out because there are like I had some situation in a Reddit thread or Reddit community recently where I was having like my stuff blocked, but I was seeing other people in the space, analysts and stuff, was posting freely, doing what they want to do. And I was like, yo, what, like, am I being targeted? And one thing that hit me is that literally you can count the amount of black and brown people in the space on one hand. It's just a couple. It's my man Raphael Johnson from NBC Sports, my man Dan Titus from Yahoo, Andre Snellings from ESPN, yourself, and then me that I know of, you know what I'm saying, that are active right now at least. So I totally agree with you on that. And that's honestly one of the things that keeps me going, to make sure that we can continue to have some diversity in the space as well. So that's dope. So we're honored to have you back, man. But I know you got 51 players on your freaking list, and we're going to get through as many of them as possible. And we'll be back though, Barack. So if we don't make it through this list, we can always do a part two in a little bit. So who you got next?
Well, I guess it would make more sense as to how I put the list together and how it ties into my strategy. So actually put something together. So let me see if I can.
And for future episodes, Barack, if we want to do screen shares, we can do that too. So I got to just figure that out on the back end. But next time, if you have any assets you want to share on screen, we can do that too.
Oh, yeah, we could set that up. I'll definitely prepare some assets. And that's something else that I want to do this season. I want to teach everyone how to use AI tools. So today, doing my research, I use ChatGPT, I use Claude, I use Google's Notebook LM. And between all of those tools, I was able to come up with a very comprehensive list. And these are all players I've used in the past. So it's not like this told me what to do, but it really helped me refresh and understand why it is that the players I target have success. So the players I target.
I said, I'm glad you said that really quick. I think we talked about it offline quickly, and we're going to ramp up more as the season goes. But I have like a little catchphrase I'm working on. I'm going to share it with the world for the first time. It's Bleav in Fantasy Basketball, the only channel using expert advice and AI-driven data to help you dominate your league. What do you think about that?
I love it, man. And I think everyone can use these same tools. We'll teach them how to use these tools, and then you'll be your own analyst. And then you'll really dominate, because this is the next frontier. I feel like as people catch on, as it gets used more, the top players are going to be like, oh, I can use this tool to do it this way. And now you're going to be at a disadvantage. So AI is going to take everything over, including fantasy basketball. So might as well befriend it now before Skynet takes over.
Skynet. Hey. Oh, all right. Go ahead, Barack. Run down the strategy.
Yeah. So my player targeting principle. So normally, like I mentioned before, unicorns, I identify players who offer elite contributions in categories that are atypical for their position. So examples, like I mentioned, would be Nikola Jokic, Brook Lopez, Jaren Jackson Jr., Drew Holiday. He's a point guard, not as much anymore, but back in the day was a very efficient scorer and also would get you a decent amount of steals and blocks for a guard. So a guard that gets you blocks, that's atypical, and it really helps. And again, Drew Holiday, a player on that Celtics team that won a championship. Then the youthful wave. I like to have most of my players be under the age of 30. Father Time is undefeated except for LeBron James so far. And typically, if your roster has too many injury-prone players or older players and you're stacking them up, it becomes a liability as the season goes on. So normally I try to keep it to one or two just older players that are so good that you have to take that risk. But I don't want to load my team with older talent. Guards that get you steals, blocks, strong percentages. Derek White is a player that comes to mind immediately. And again, another player on that Boston Celtics team that won a championship. So
Real quick, Barack. So
I'm
a
sorry.
couple of times running down your players, you mentioned championship pedigree. Talk to
Yeah,
me about the correlation between like a championship level player and how that can translate into fantasy value. Like, because it seems like that's something that you pay attention to. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
it's almost the thing is I wasn't paying attention to it. I use these strategies to identify the players. And then the players just happen to have championship success. It's not like I'm like, oh, let me target championship players. I'm targeting a mold. So I like players that are going to be efficient. I know, like something, for example, that I will share with everyone, and I think it's not a popular opinion, but I hear often people say turnovers are your go-to punt. Go ahead and just forget turnovers, load up on turnovers.
That's everyone. That's just about everyone. Yep.
Everyone. I think I'm the only person that says, no, don't do that. Do not do that. I think turnovers is the worst category for you to punt. I think for several reasons. A, turnovers are a reflection of decision making. So if you load up on players that have a ton of turnovers, chances are your field goal percentage is also probably going to be hurt. And I, in my strategy, also like to protect my field goal percentage. And if I do have a player on my team that's going to get me, let's say, 3+ turnovers per game, I want them to get me 6+ assists per game, because the way I view it, if I win assist every week and lose turnovers every week, there's no difference if I lose assist every week but win turnovers every week.
So
And
why not win them both?
so I don't think it's possible to win them both, because there's a seesaw effect that's going on where the more usage you have, the more you have the ball, the more you're going to turn the ball over. So the more assists you get, the more turnovers you get. So the strategy I actually use, I value players that have a great assist to turnover ratio. I think that's the sweet spot. If you can be really low in turnovers, but you can be middle of the pack in your league in assists, because on any given week, you can have more games than the opponent, or your players just have a great week and they get 10 assists when they normally get 6. So you can win assists. But if you have a disciplined team that is not turnover prone, that's a variable you can have more control for. And since everybody loves to punt turnovers, that means you end up being really strong in turnovers against the majority of the teams in your league. And in my experience, when I've protected turnovers and managed to be middle of the pack in assist and protect my percentages and also target players that get you steals and blocks, that's been the sweet spot. I can sacrifice rebounds. I can sacrifice points. Threes, I like to be middle of the pack in. But I'd say this strategy is what has helped me identify the players I want to build around, because what I've learned over the years is fantasy basketball is not so much about who to draft. It's more about who not to draft. And once you know what players just you want to avoid, don't fit your build, don't fit your mold, then that noise gets removed. And all you see when you're drafting is these players you've identified fit what you want to do.
Man, Barack, you are shaking things up. I love it, yo, because now I'm thinking about it and it's just kind of clicking for me. It's almost like low-hanging fruit, right? It's like if everybody in the game is saying, hey, let's all agree to punt turnovers. If you win it, you win it just because you cared a little more than everyone else about whatever the metric was. The idea of targeting players with good assist to turnover ratios, and actually winning that category is huge. I love that. Can you name just a few guys maybe this season that would be good targets for that assist to turnover ratio, and maybe help people, win that turnover category?
Yeah, so one that I think has huge potential is Andrew Nembhard on the Indiana Pacers with the injury to Tyrese Halliburton, who himself is another great, amazing assist to turnover ratio guard who's super efficient as a scorer, gets you a ton of assists. And again, the success the Pacers had, people didn't see it coming, but these are both our players that fit this mold. Myles Turner fits this mold. And when you stack players that all fit this mold, not only does your fantasy basketball teams have success, but real legitimate NBA teams are having success. So honestly, I think I should be in an NBA front office with this strategy, because this is identifying actual championship caliber like players. This strategy works, and I think it's because you're limiting poor decision making. If they have high field goal percentage, if they have high free throw percentage, that's why I like Brook Lopez, or I like a Myles Turner, because they get you a lot of blocks, but they also don't hurt your free throw percentage. Historically, players that got you a lot of blocks would kill your free throw percentage. They wouldn't get you any threes. We still have some of those players in the leagues today, like a Clint Capella, for example, or even a Rudy Gobert. But these players that can get you a high free throw percentage and get you a lot of blocks, that's just a unicorn. And then the moment you add those threes, it becomes a lot harder for teams to beat you in 5 categories, which is my other thing. Don't try to dominate all 9 categories in 9 cat. Stop. Don't do that, because all you're going to end up doing is just being mediocre at everything. It's better to be really bad at one category, maybe like bottom third of the league in a second category. And if you set it up that way, you can end up being top 4 in 4 categories, and you might end up being top 1 in 2 categories. And before you know it, it's become impossible to either win against you, and even a win ends up becoming a tie. There's so many times when somebody gave their best effort and the best they managed to do was to force a tie, because there wasn't really a path for them to get the 5 or 6 categories they needed because of how I structured my team, because they couldn't beat me in turnovers. I targeted assist to turnover ratio players, so I was competitive in assists. And with some smart streaming, you can make up for any gaps that you may have in your build as well. And then your streaming is also going to be based on targeting players that fit, this build. That's why my community comes back looking for me, because they've implemented this, and then they get the exact same results, and they're like, whoa, this guy is telling me things that work. But it's really down to the math. Somebody else I would recommend, Trey Murphy III. He's just he's like the poster child of a perfect 9 category player, and that he helps you across the board. He's very efficient, hits a ton of threes. He's going to get you steals. He's going to get you some blocks. He's not going to turn the ball over. He doesn't get you a ton of assists. But again, as long as I can be middle of the pack in assists and keep my turnovers low, I can take a player like that and not worry about it. And something else I would say about turnovers, logically speaking, the players that get a lot of turnovers, it's typically because they have a lot of usage. The pool of players with a lot of usage is very limited. By me targeting players that have a strong turnover or have strong percentages, I've opened up a much wider pool of talent that I can work with. Talent that people ignore, because typically maybe they're not scorers, so they don't score 20 points per game. So someone will say, I don't want them on my team. I don't think they're going to be useful for me. But then they might get you like a Dyson Daniels who got you 3 steals per game. That's like the equivalent of a guy dropping 40 points per game. But because people are so focused on just scorers and high usage players and the popcorn stats, a lot of these great players like an OG Anunoby, and Isaiah Hartenstein, who got you a ton of rebounds, high field goal percentage, got you assists, didn't turn over the ball a lot. Just these players that really help your team, especially when you stack them together. And then the other thing about this strategy I think works well is with scheduling. You might go into a week where your opponent has 6 or 7 more games than you that week, but because you're not as focused on the counting stats, like turnovers, if you're playing less games, that makes you more competitive in turnovers. And if you have very efficient players, then it doesn't matter. The 6 to 7 games shouldn't make much of a difference. It's not going to impact your numbers as much as it does with the volume stats. And then if you load up on these unicorns that get you a lot of steals and blocks, even with less games played, you could be competitive enough to still win the categories. And maybe even though you're down 7 or 8 games, you could force a tie or maybe even win the week anyways.
Barack, I got to let off an air horn for that one.
Go.
Yo, your man Barack came out the gate with the 40-piece, 10 rebounds, 13 assists, 2 blocks, and a steal, 0 turnovers. 0 turnovers.
I would draft me on my team, is what you're saying.
Absolutely. Barack, oh man, before we get out of here, let the people know what to expect from us this season. Just a little preview.
Hey man, I've joined the Bleav in Fantasy Network. I will be here. Honestly, I might be here weekly. We have to discuss, the multi-million-dollar contract that my boy Robin is going to pay me for my services. But once that has been ironed out, hopefully I'm here on a regular basis. The content I'm in will also go on my YouTube channel. We're going to reactivate that. And with Robin handling a lot of the overhead as far as managing the logistics of a channel, I can just kind of come, talk, give you my expertise, and then that's going to make it feasible for me to continue sharing my insight with my community and hopefully helping them win some money or just, just being able to talk some crap to your friends and let them know that when it comes to calculator basketball, nobody is better than you.
Oh, let's get it. And also, Barack, I want to let your community know that we are doing a giveaway for this season to celebrate the start of the season and the return of Barack Lesnar. All they have to do is visit BleavinFantasy.com. They'll be asked for their email address and they'll get a link to a survey. They can win this free Cade Cunningham graded rookie card. We also got Tyrese Halliburton rookie card. We have Tyrese Maxey. We have a bunch of rookie cards. And also we're giving away Stone Cold Cash, a $100 Amazon gift card to a few different winners. So we're really excited about that. And again, it's to celebrate the return of Barack Lesnar, but also the launch of this NBA season.
Yo, and if you're in Columbus, Ohio, hit me up. Booking at Band Funny, and I'll get you a couple of tickets to come see a comedy show. So if you're in Columbus, Ohio, which I'm assuming you have a couple of people there, come check me out, do some stand-up. And if you don't want to do that and all you want is fantasy basketball, man, we have a ton of it coming your way this season.